The OSSC is incredible. Despite some issues, this is the best upscaler I've ever owned. But what about other cheaper options? Is the Portta component to HDMI upscaler worth a look? Many people just want to play their retro systems on a modern television set or monitor, and while devices like the OSSC are great, it's not cheap. At £140 on average, this is an investment that one may not wish to dabble in. Of course, other options exist like the RetroTink 2X and the Rad 2X line of cables. What if you need something cheaper? Well, the Portta component to HDMI upscaler is the best cheap upscaler I've used, and once again I will be comparing it to the OSSC. I've decided to look at all my PlayStation consoles, so PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable, and this time I've added the PlayStation 3 into the mix. Now, let's see what happens. We start with the PlayStation. This tower of power uses 240p or 288p resolution for the most part. It can also use the high-res mode, which is 480i or 576i interlaced resolutions. Most games that use it only featured it in the title screen or menus, but games like Dead or Alive or Dino Crisis use it more prominently. Dino Crisis uses it every time you use the in-game menu, and Dead or Alive is all interlaced aside from a few screens and its FMV introduction. Component video is basically RGB quality, and as a result, this is one of the best cable types for PlayStation games running on the PlayStation 2. The OSSC, thanks to that Line 5X mode on 240p or 288p resolutions, steal the show. You do lose a few rows of the image, but most games seem to play nice with it. The Portta mishandles the 240p or 288p as interlaced content, which you can see causes more image errors to show up. It also forces everything to 60Hz, which is bad for people like me who use PAL consoles. There's quite a bit of stutter as a result. Overall, the Portta is not terrible, but it's not amazing. Still, its forced 1080p output does make playing games like Dino Crisis much easier, since the resolution switching doesn't trip up the upscaler. Sadly, the same cannot be said for the OSSC, which drops sync every time this occurs. Here are some sound samples and some more games to feast your eyes on. Going over to the PlayStation 2 has some interesting results. Some of the same points apply here though. The Portta still forces everything to 60Hz, making life hard for PAL games that don't support 60Hz. The image is still a bit rough, but it's not bad, and at least it's de-interlaced. The OSSC in this video is using Passthrough and being de-interlaced via OBS. You can see the differences for yourself. Which one looks better to you? When it comes to 480p games, both upscalers step up their game. The Portta handles 480p as well as it can, and it certainly is playable. The OSSC is class leading for 480p, especially when line doubled to 960p. Honestly, you have to see it in person to believe it. 480p rules! Mind you, Passthrough is there if you'd rather have a softer image instead. That, or if your device simply can't support the 960p output from the OSSC. I forgot to mention, the Portta stretches everything to 16:9, even the content that isn't 16:9 compatible. This makes a lot of games appear stretched, although my personal TV can enable a forced 4:3 mode, which you've been seeing here. Here's more footage and more sound comparisons to check out.
50, over crest, 50, right 4. Into left 3, into left 3, and right 2, into left 3, and right 2, and left 2.
Now, onto the PSP. Native PSP video output only works at 480p progressive mode. unless you have a PSP 3000 or PSP Go, which can show PSP games via the interlaced mode. PSP games are small when viewed on a TV, so for this video I had to manually make them 16:9 and full screen as you would try to do on a TV. The results favour the OSSC by a country mile. The Portta is great in the sense that we can actually use PSP related software on it and show some footage on real PSP hardware, but it doesn't look great. The OSSC is the best you're going to get on a stock PlayStation Portable. It makes actual PSP game captures more tolerable as a result. As for the PlayStation content, we're using the interlaced mode on both systems. The results are closer this time thanks to the nature of the PlayStation Portable's blurrier output of PlayStation content. These particular games are all at 60Hz, so the Portta has no strange stutter during gameplay. It's not perfect, but it's decent, and I do love the PlayStation Portable for this reason. The Portta wouldn't be a bad choice for capturing PlayStation 1 content via a PlayStation Portable. Finally, the PlayStation 3. Let's see how things go here. The Portta had to use 1080p and 720p, whereas the OSSC was set to 1080i and 720p. It did not look good at all when set to 1080p. Folks, this was a big surprise. The Portta was better than the OSSC. I'm not kidding, just see for yourself. Every game I ran looked quite good on the Portta. Clearly, the higher the resolution, the better it performs. Sadly, the OSSC was terrible in comparison. Look at it! It's dropping sync and the picture is full of noise. This thing hates 720p. The results were better in Marvel vs Capcom 2, but it's still not optimal. As for running PlayStation 1 software on the PlayStation 3, the OSSC was much better here, but the image was still full of noise. I'm not sure if the cable or the OSSC was the culprit. More about that in a moment. The Portta overstretched the PlayStation 1 content and stuttered a little due to the mismatched regions, but otherwise looked pretty good actually. There was a line of video noise that scrolled up the picture, but not bad otherwise. So, why is the OSSC not doing so well here? The cable could be one problem. Some of the noise artifacts did appear on both devices, but for the OSSC, I believe that the timings were off. If you don't know, the OSSC has timings that can be adjusted. This allows you to dial in optimized settings for every possible resolution. In other words, we can make the picture more accurate and even sharper. In the future, I will see if this can solve the image problems we got while playing on the PlayStation 3. I do have a video where I compared the PlayStation 3 using RGB via the OSSC against its HDMI output, and there were no connection issues at all there. If you need to use components for the PlayStation 3 and you have to use an upscaler, the Portta wins here, at least without messing with the OSSC timings and whatnot. Well, there we are. The difference between a cheap upscaler and one of the best in the business. The OSSC is awesome, but the Portta will be ideal for most people. Easier to use, it eliminates resolution switching, and it will make games look decent on a HDMI television. It's not flawless, but it's the obvious choice for many of you simply wanting to play your retro consoles on a HDMI television. However, the OSSC is better, and it has more options like RGB SCART and VGA inputs. The line multipliers really help the picture pop, and it processes everything correctly. Yes, it performed poorly on the PlayStation 3 using component, and it can have trouble with resolution switching on the fly, but it's a superior product for a reason, and I'm thankful to own one. What do you folks think of my second look at both upscalers? Let me know in the comments, and I hope to see you all again next time.